This is Click 1001, A Space Odyssey. In honour of the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, we've got massive rockets, space station robot arms, and we bounce sound off the moon. Why? Because it's there.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
So said President John F. Kennedy in 1962. On July the 16th, 1969, 3 astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Edwin Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins, made ready to fulfill that promise as they prepared for Apollo 11. The first crewed mission to land on the moon.
3 men to represent the culmination of a dream.
Here at NASA in Houston, Texas, Mission Control monitored every aspect of the moonshot. These days it's used to monitor the International Space Station. The actual control room used for the Apollo 11 mission is undergoing a bit of a refurb in honour of the 50th anniversary. Marcos Flores is one of the current mission controllers for the ISS.
There was no guarantee that Apollo 11 was going to be successful. I mean, it was really cutting-edge, dangerous stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of risk involved in the missions themselves and how dangerous they were, but also a lot of unknowns in terms of being able to successfully land on the moon.
The 36-story tall Saturn V moves out of its huge assembly building and heads for the launch pad.
To build the launch vehicle, NASA contracted Boeing, North American Aviation, the Douglas Aircraft Company, and IBM to help build a rocket that would end up being the biggest and most powerful ever built.
Call that a rocket? This is a rocket. Inside here is a Saturn V rocket. Stage 1 gets you off the launch pad and up to a speed of 6,000 miles an hour. Two and a half minutes later, all of this fuel is burned. You don't want to carry an empty casing into space, so you ditch it to save on weight. Then, 5 rocket engines in stage 2 ignite and send you into the upper atmosphere. At 115 miles up, all that fuel is gone too. You ditch the second stage. And this rocket on stage 3 fires you around the Earth and into orbit. Then it powers down, and a little while later it restarts. This time it sends you to the moon. So here's the thing. That bit there, that's where the people sit. All the rest of it is fuel. While the rocket was incredibly powerful, so at the time was the computing power required for the Apollo program. Even though in popular culture, the computers of the day, which in this case were giant mainframes, are often compared unfavourably to contemporary technology.
The 36075 that we used was a 1-MIT machine, 1 million instructions per second, and it had 1 meg of real memory, or 1 million bytes of real memory, and 4 million bytes of auxiliary memory. The numbers you hear for the iPhone that I own are anywhere from 10,000 times as fast as that to 1 million to maybe even, I think I've seen one that's 100 million times as fast.
Homer programs the actual code used for the descent and ascent of the lunar landing module, and on July the 20th, 1969, it kicked in as Neil Armstrong piloted the lunar lander onto the moon's surface.
We're going, that alarm. 40 feet down, 2.5. If it doesn't reoccur, will we go? 30 seconds. 1201. 1201. Roger, 1201 alarm. 1201 alarm. Same time, we'll go, flight. Okay, we're go. We've had shutdown. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
At 02:39 hours, Armstrong exited the landing module and uttered the immortal phrase.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Now, as any good tourist knows, photos are a must. Armstrong and Aldrin also left a plaque and a flag, and took a phone call from President Richard Nixon.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made.
What did we learn from the Apollo missions that we still use today?
We are leveraging a lot of the experience that we gain with the vehicles themselves in terms of the rocket design, the capsule design, and what it takes for us to be able to safely, send that body up to space and bring it back down.
So let's head to the front of the International Space Station.
That's not something you get to say every day.
So we're now in front of the International Space Station.
Alison McIntyre is chief of NASA's Space Vehicle Mock-Up Facility, and today she's giving us a tour of her realm. We're in amongst past spacecraft, prototypes of future ships, and a replica of the International Space Station that's used to train future astronauts.
We have a Canadian, David Saint-Jacques, 3 Americans, and then 2 Russian crew members.
Every American who's flown to space since 1980 has trained in this facility.
So this morning we had an emergency scenario, so we can actually pump smoke into a module, and they run their procedures through it. NASA is responsible for all of the integrated training. So while the crew members may go to Russia to get their Russian systems training, to Europe to get training on the Columbus European Space Agency's module, here we do integrated training, the emergency scenarios, and then these routine operations, which is sort of a day in the life.
Even though you've got part of the space shuttle in here and you've got a clone of the International Space Station and spacecraft of the future here too, there are echoes of Apollo everywhere.
This is Orion, which will take astronauts close to the moon in 2022, and its design is very familiar.
This is significantly larger than Apollo, but a similar shape, and that's because while technology changes, physics don't change. So the physics of this entering the atmosphere is the same as it was in Apollo. Everything inside is higher tech. We're incorporating things like exercise equipment, but it has to fit into a very small volume. A toilet has to fit into a very small volume and things like that.
Did Apollo not have a toilet?
Apollo did not have a toilet.
They deserve a medal just for that.
Yes.
To what extent did the Apollo missions shape our understanding of how to do the moon?
Quite a lot. When we first started launching space missions, not just Apollo, but Mercury and Gemini, we didn't know if humans could eat in space, for example. Just fundamental questions. What will happen to the body when you're free floating in zero gravity?
And there is one extremely important change that we'll see in future missions to the moon.
Tell me about the people that will be the next people to stand on the moon.
So our administrator has said that the next people to land on the moon will be the next man and the first woman will be on that first mission and put boots on the moon. So that's very exciting for all of us. Honestly, right now our astronaut corps is about 40% female. So they have some great astronauts to choose from. They will get the best of the best. and it doesn't take much for that to be a female.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. Sticking with space, it was the week that Virgin Galactic announced its plans to go public in a merger with a New York-listed investment firm. The move means a big cash boost for the human spaceflight company. And the European Space Agency showed off a 3D printing skin and bones technique designed for low gravity. The idea being that an injured astronaut could one day rustle up a bone or two whilst on a voyage to Mars. The agency also unveiled a bouncing bot destined for the stars. The aptly named Spacebot could navigate the Moon, Mars or asteroids by hopping about rough terrain. Back down on Earth, it was also the week that British Airways was slapped with a £183 million fine after 500,000 of its customers' details were compromised in a security breach last year. The penalty from the UK Watchdog Information Commissioner's Office is the first to be made public under new GDPR rules. Instagram launched a new anti-bullying AI, nudging users, "Are you sure you want to post this?" And Twitter banned words that dehumanize others on the basis of religion. And just in time for summer, this robo-farmer could soon be picking the leaves for your salad. The VeggieBot from the University of Cambridge uses machine learning to identify and carefully pick ripe lettuces. You might be waiting a while for your dinner though.
Being an astronaut on the International Space Station requires years of training. Today, I'm being taught to do one tiny bit of it by Amy Efting. So this is the cupola? Cupola?
Cupola.
Cupola.
Yes.
And this is a replica of what's on board the ISS?
That's correct.
Okay, so what are we going to do?
So we are going to be flying the space station robotic arm today to go and grab a commercial cargo vehicle called Dragon, which is developed by SpaceX.
Okay. And I'm going to be doing that?
And you're going to be doing it.
Okay. See, contrary to what I thought, the supply craft don't dock automatically. It's all down to the ISS crew to extend this 17.5 metre robot and pull them in.
There is a docking version of Dragon that's coming, but this one and a lot of the other cargo vehicles right now, they fly up to the station, they get close enough that the arm can reach it, and then the arm is used to go in and grab it and manually attach it. So it's a little bit more controlled process.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to grab the Dragon. Okay. Can I go?
You're ready. Go for it.
Okay, here we go. There are two controllers for the arm to move it up, down, left, right, forward, back, and to roll it to the correct orientation. Phew. And then, when you're within pinching distance and everything is lined up, there's a trigger to start an automated grabbing sequence.
1.5 meters.
Okay, first tip, don't look out the window. Beautiful as it is, you can't really judge that much from the actual scene. Instead, I need to keep my eyes on the view from the camera mounted on the robot's wrist. Wow, already I'm really nervous. Is this what the astronauts go through every time there's a docking on the ISS?
At least you know that you're in a sim, so we can always reset if you mess up.
Okay.
But they don't have that luxury on orbit, you know?
What can go wrong?
So you could bump the Dragon, kind of push it away from us and put a rate on it. You could fail to capture it. I guess that would probably be like the worst things. If you were way off, you could hit the Dragon in some spot.
In free drift, go for approach. 1 meter.
Once the markings on the Dragon are lined up with the guidelines on the screen, it is time to grab it. Okay, now?
Pull trigger now. Okay, now remember, hands off. And now we're just going to watch it do that sequence.
Oh, I grabbed the Dragon!
You got it. Yes.
This is just one of so many vital skills the ISS astronauts need. My test scores are in, and, well, call it beginner's luck if you like, but have to say, I wasn't too shabby.
That was good. You're a little on the fast side, but you got it done, so that was great. And then what you really want to see is the other axes, your Y and Z, should be really small relative to the others, and they were. So that was excellent. You did a really good job.
A recent poll suggests that 1 in 6 Britons believe the moon landing was staged. In the age of the internet, conspiracy theories run rampant, and claiming the moon landings were a hoax is at the head of the pack. Companies like Nvidia have tried to use technology to try and prove the moon landings did happen. They built a 3D render using powerful graphics processing units which realistically represents how light behaves on the moon, debunking a popular conspiracy theory about the lighting in the moon landing images being wrong. Well, we've decided to do some digging of our own and examine the evidence that proves, yes, human beings have landed on the moon.
35 seconds and counting. We are still go with Apollo 11.
Jonathan Swift, the famous novelist, satirist. Reasoning will never make a man correct an ill opinion by which reasoning he never acquired. If someone has an unreasonable opinion about something based on nonsense, it doesn't matter how much reasoning you do with them, you're never going to reason them out of it because reason didn't get there to begin with. So there are the famous ones that, you know, the fact that, they didn't actually go to the moon, they actually launched in the rocket and orbited the Earth for a few times, pretended they went to the moon and came home. Radiation, that's the other one. There's no way they could have gone through the deadly Van Allen belts that surround planet Earth. There's the kind of anomalies with the photographs, all of which are ridiculous. Stanley Kubrick directed it in a film set in Area 51, somewhere in the desert. The technology to fake the moon landings did not exist in 1969. The technology did exist to get to the moon in 1969, just.
40 feet down, 2.5, picking up some dust. Big shadow. It's different, but it's very pretty out here.
The lunar surface cameras were based on our 500 EL systems. We had many modifications, viewfinders and a mirror system. All of this was removed to save weight, which then locked into a chest bracket on the astronaut suit. And it was literally moving their body, tilting their body to frame up the images. We can't see any stars because the contrast range of the surface images is too high.
If it's a bright day and you stand outside a house and open the door to the house and look in, you can't see any of the detail because it's too bright where you are.
So this is as close as a modern equivalent as we would have. It has a 100 megapixel sensor. If we took it to the surface today, would not be able to capture stars and lunar surface detail in the same image.
Oh, geez, that's great. Is the lighting halfway decent?
One of the issues of doing it in a studio is the dust on the moon. And when there's no atmosphere, dust behaves differently than when there is an atmosphere. So now you have to have a studio that you evacuated and had a vacuum in. Well, now all the spacesuits have to really work, and the studio has to be unbelievably fortified to withstand the pressure of the atmospheric pressure outside the studio pushing in on the vacuum.
You have to really try really hard and have great faith in the fact that you could fake it. Why don't they have faith in the scientists and the engineers who actually, and the astronauts and the 20,000 companies that made it happen? There's no faith in that lot, but Stanley Kubrick in his film set, there's lots of faith.
The Lunar Mission comes as a climax of the space race that the United States and Soviet Union have been competing in since the mid-1950s for technological and scientific supremacy. The Soviets possessed advanced tracking capabilities of their own. They would have used them to track ICBM missiles as well as spaceflight. So their inability to detect a conspiracy of this nature seems unlikely. Moreover, they would have had every incentive to expose this in order to score a major propaganda victory.
Apollo engineers were very well aware of the Van Allen belts, but A, it wasn't in them for very long, and B, it charted a course actually where the Van Allen belts are kind of quite weak anyway. You'd think that having moon rocks on the Earth would be living proof that the conspiracy theories can be debunked.
Those rocks are still being studied today. Some of them are sealed up, never yet been touched, because the scientists, even back in the 60s and the 70s, knew that technology would get better with time and they would be able to make new scientific discoveries.
We have, left by the Apollo astronauts on the moon, retroreflectors. These are passive experiments where, a bit like cat's eyes, we can fire a laser at them
bounce lasers from the Earth to the moon to understand the changing behaviors of the moon and its orbit.
Is sadly not enough for the deniers because they'll always see conspiracy.
Well, while moon landing conspiracies have been around for several decades, they've suddenly got a new lease of life in the age of the internet.
Things like Facebook groups let all these disparate ideas and people come together and find each other in a way that we've never had before. So the Romans had conspiracy theories, they just didn't have the internet. Now we still have conspiracy theories because we're humans and our brains are fallible, and we have the internet. It's a perfect storm.
The moon is so far away, nearly 250,000 miles in fact, but somehow LJ Rich has found a way to get closer.
If you can't make it to the moon, don't worry, you can always leave a message. I'm in Pula, Croatia, at an MTF Labs event. Music Tech Fest runs it. It's a community of sound lovers who thrive on pushing the boundaries of music using technology. And this evening's entertainment is out of this world, an interactive work of art called System Moon.
Into space.
Right now, people are queuing up behind me to talk to the moon.
Yeah.
It's the perfect time of year for this planetary cosmic art project and proving very popular.
Now I can hear you. Good evening.
Good evening and welcome in Dwingeloo.
Via a live internet connection into the cabin, my words are carried on radio waves from the Dwingeloo telescope 2 hours outside of Amsterdam in the Netherlands.
I'm going to speak into the microphone and you two are going to do something with my voice related to the moon, right?
Yeah, we're going to put it on a radio wave and we're going to send it to the moon.
1.25 seconds later, my words reach the moon's surface. My words are bounced back down to Earth and I hear them after the return journey, 2.5 seconds in total.
Hello, moon people. What's the weather like up there? What kind of music do you like?
In 1956, this was among the world's first moving radio astronomy antennas. After decommissioning, it was lovingly restored and now used for science, education and art projects like this one.
Well, I have to say I've done stranger things in my time, but I'm not sure quite what they are.
Next day, I caught up with the artist Martine Nicole Royina to find out how she and the moon got on speaking terms.
I always wanted to become an astronaut, and I'm in love with celestial bodies. I'm in love with the universe. I'm in love with the fact that we are made of stardust, and I've been watching universe documentaries since I was a kid, and yeah. I believe that it has a wonderful transformative effect to leave your system, literally go to another sphere, another celestial body, bounce back, and what happens is that inside your mind you are going to see the world from the outside, the Earth from the outside, and you're going to realize that actually we're on a spaceship ourselves.
A lovely way to democratize celestial communication, and for Earthlings like me, it might be the closest I'll ever get to the moon.
And that's it from Flight Control 1 here at NASA for now, because next week we'll be back to look even further into space. I can't wait. Don't forget, we're on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at BBC Click. Thanks very much for watching and we'll see you soon.